I never intended to become a travel photographer, but life finds a way. And as both a professional photographer and a bit of a photo addict, I've always got my camera on me no matter where I go. And yes, that includes in my hand when I'm on the plane. And from hiking backcountry New Zealand to walking the streets of London, I've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was about lenses. If you've ever hiked up a mountain with an entire backpack full of camera gear, I feel your pain, so maybe go ahead and subscribe. So after a lot of trial and error, emphasis on the error part, a lot of sore shoulders and backs, and a lot of missed photos, I've discovered the answer to the age-old question: what lenses should I travel with? The answer? Just this one. This is my Sigma 50mm f1.4 art lens for Nikon F-mount, but it's not the best lens for traveling because it's a Sigma, or for Nikon, or even because it's f1.4. It's the best travel lens because it's a fast 50. And right now, you're probably wondering why on earth it's not a zoom lens. After all, if you don't know what you're getting into and the goal is to not miss any photos, then surely a zoom would be the go-to option, right? Well, no. I also traveled for years with my main lens being the Nikon 24-70 f2.8. We'll get to that, but first, let me explain why I choose a nifty 50. There are three main reasons, starting with versatility. The 50 is like the Swiss Army knife of lenses because it's not super wide or super long. It's in that perfect Goldilocks zone for shooting almost any subject. When you're traveling, you are going to discover unexpected photos, people you meet, places you see, and being prepared to shoot anything from a portrait to a beautiful vista is critical, and the 50 can do both of those. In fact, you can shoot almost anything on the 50, from fashion or editorial style shots to street photography and documentary photos to even landscapes and wildlife. Here's the thing, no matter where you go, when you travel, the most important thing and the thing that is most important to capture and remember is people. I love to shoot portraits on the 50. It's a little wider than a usual portrait lens, but that means you get a little more context. You get a photo of someone where they are and not just a photo of their face. Also, with a 50, it's just long enough to get that blurry bokeh background if that's what you're into, but you can also get everything in deep focus too. With longer lenses, it's really hard to get that deep focus look with everything sharp, and with super wide lenses, you have to work pretty hard to get any blur in the background at all. Goldilocks lens. There are two other critical reasons that I choose a 50, but first I want to tell you about something else that's critical, and that's inspiration. You can't make art without it, and I think the best way to get it is in real life and not on a screen, especially Frames magazine, who are very kindly the sponsors of today's video. Frames is a quarterly print magazine, although the word magazine doesn't quite capture just how much it feels like a real work of art. The printing is gorgeous, the layout is simple and ad-free, and there's a selection of photographers from a massive range of genres in every issue. Sometimes when you're stuck in a rut or your photos just haven't felt good enough lately, it's because your brain is a creative juice machine that takes input and turns it into art. And all of your input lately has been TikTok and reality TV. If you put good art and interesting stories into your brain, it'll work better, trust me. But it's not just the art. Frames magazine have a massive online community. They do talks and events and live streams, and it's just a really great way to experience photography and be a part of something bigger. So make an investment in your art. Click on the link in the video description to join, and make sure you get 10% off by using my discount code HYDRATED10. Big thank you to Frames magazine and to you for supporting what I do. Now, the 50 is versatile, but there's also another reason that the nifty 50 is perfect for this sort of photography, and it's distance. Have you ever tried to shoot a portrait on a 135mm lens? You have to stand really far away. With a 50, if you're standing at a normal talking distance, like how far away I am from you, it's basically already the perfect distance to take a portrait with. This means that you can zoom with your feet when you need to and take photos very quickly and naturally. And if you think about that, there's another benefit. It's kind of immersive, right? If the photos look like what your eyeballs saw, then it's going to be easier to capture that feeling and memory of where you were. We don't see in fisheye or telephoto, and while those lenses are really fun, when you're capturing memories, I think it makes a lot of sense to have quite a natural look. But all of that is all about aesthetics. There's also some really practical reasons that I choose to travel with just this one lens. 50mm lenses are old. Not this one, but like in general. 50s have been mass produced since dinosaurs roamed the earth and people respected Pentax, and they used to come bundled with cameras as the standard lens. This means that there's loads of them all over the place. Go over to your photographer friends' houses. I bet they've all got at least 150 in their sock drawer. While you're in their sock drawer, you might find some old dodgy looking SD cards. Don't take them. When you're traveling, you're capturing memories, and it's really important to make sure that you keep those photos safe. So if your camera lets you, use 2 card slots, use high quality SD cards. If you can, do nightly backups onto your phone with a dongle or your laptop. I always use these Angelbird cards. As always, these and all of the other gear I use is linked in the video description. Because we've been making nifty 50s for so long, they're relatively super cheap, but also we've made quite a lot of progress along the way. You can get 50s that are really sharp, wide open, and super fast like this Sigma one, or you can get vintage 50s that have a really beautiful rendering and dreamy skin tones. Or you can get 50s that are super compact, light, and small, and none of them are crazy expensive. This Sigma lens goes for $400 to $500 on the used market, and this Pentax 51.7, which I actually like just as much, goes for literally $20. In fact, one of the best lenses of all time, not just best 50s, is the Canon EF 50mm 1.8, which is all over the place for well under $200. But you're saying, okay, Hunter, I get it, but that still doesn't explain why on earth you wouldn't use a zoom lens. Right, okay, that brings me to the third reason: simplicity. When I walked up a mountain with a backpack full of lenses, I learned that actually I'm not as fit as I thought. But also, if you have 10 lenses, you will take 10 times as long, and you will take 10 times as many photos, and only one of them will be good, and it's probably the first one you took with the lens that was already attached to the front of your camera. Simplifying and removing creative decisions gives you a little creative constraint to work with, which is way more satisfying than having everything instantly available at your fingertips. It's also a really great way to make sure that your photos have a consistent look and feel. I mean, with a zoom lens, even if you're at about 50, some of the time it's 45 or 55 or 41. While that can be useful, I've found that I really appreciate having just that extra little bit of consistency in how my photos taste. Not only that, but for me at least, it's way too easy to use a zoom lens as a crutch and just zoom in instead of moving my body around to compose the photo I can see inside my brain. But there's an even more important reason to avoid the distraction of multiple lenses or even one zoom lens. When you're traveling, you probably want to actually experience where you are in real life. Like if you're spending the whole time figuring out whether you should use your 35 or your 24, you're probably not paying attention to the insane view in front of you, or the crazy busy market, or the lovely people that you're surrounded by. When I travel, at least, I want the photography to feel like an icing on the cake, not the whole reason I got on a plane for 18 hours, haven't shaved in a week, and haven't had a healthy bowel movement since day one. But now you're saying, okay, I get your point, Hunter, but why not a 35 or an 85? If you can't take good photos on an 85, that means you're an amateur. Point taken, I have a difficult relationship with 85mm lenses. That's between me and my therapist. But if you don't like 50, you don't have to shoot 50. If you want to shoot the whole trip on 35, you can. Same with 85 or 135 or 16mm. See, the goal of this video was never to convince you that 50 is the king of all lenses. It's to show you that packing way lighter than you think you should, keeping things as simple and streamlined as possible, and accepting some constraints in your workflow while you're traveling and taking photos can really transform the experience you have. Focus on the real life that's happening in front of you, F8, and be there, and the Instagram bangers will start just happening automatically. Speaking of, I did a video where I found out the ridiculous backstory of F8 and Be There and how to do it, so watch that next. Stay hydrated and create art.